Today, we are going to be ranking the top 25 players in the NBA. With the 2021 NBA season over, the 2022 NBA season is just around the corner. We've gotten some time to reflect on last season and get a good perspective of the NBA landscape. I think the offseason is the best time to rank players, so let's get on with the list. Before we dive into number 25, let's go over some honorable mentions. In no particular order, we have Ben Simmons, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, John Morant, and Russell Westbrook. I was really close to putting Rudy Gobert and Russell Westbrook in the top 25, but the player at number 25 just edges them out. One thing to note is that Klay Thompson will not be on this list. Not because he can't be good enough, but after not seeing him play in over 2 years, it's really hard to rank him. There are a lot of questions about his injury and how that has affected him, if it did at all. So let's get on to the 25 best players in the NBA. At the bottom of the list, we have Bam Adebayo. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate that improved from his All-Star season prior. He added a mid-range game to make him that much more of a threat, and I think his playmaking ability is really underrated, as I think he's the second best passing center in the league. At number 24, I have Chris Middleton. His playoff run he went on last season is a big reason why he's here. There were many concerns about him being the second option on the Bucks, and he shut that narrative down. Even though he can be streaky at times, he had a very good championship run and stepped up when the Bucks needed him to. At 23, I have Zion Williamson. Zion is a freak of nature, and at 21 years old, he's already one of the most dominant players in the paint. I do have some concerns about Zion that hold him back from being higher on this list. He fails to stay healthy, he isn't that great defensively, and his play hasn't led to wins. At number 22, I have Jayson Brown. He's a legitimate two-way player that can score on all three levels. After getting injured and missing the last bit of the regular season and playoffs, it showed how impactful Jayson Brown is for the Celtics. He has improved every year of his career, and with Kemba off the team, I think he will take yet another leap next season. At 21, I have Bradley Beal. Beal has been a 30-point scorer for the past 2 seasons. Unfortunately, he hasn't seen much success. It isn't all his fault, but I haven't seen the potential he can bring in the playoffs and on a good team. At number 20, I have Chris Paul. Unlike Beal, CP3 makes sure everywhere he goes, they win. He's had better teams than Beal, but I do believe his impact is much greater. Chris Paul has helped lead the Suns to the second best record in the league and the NBA Finals last season. At number 19, I have Jimmy Butler. After the disappointing performance in the playoffs, it was a bit hard to rank him. I think we were overrating him a little bit too much after the 2020 Finals run, even though it was warranted. His impact on the court goes way beyond the box score and is deserving of being in the top 20 players in the league. At number 18, I have Zach LaVine. Last year, he averaged 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists a game on 51% from the field and 42% from 3. That's a crazy stat line, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he plays on a much better team. At number 17, I have Devin Booker. He helped lead the Suns to the NBA Finals, and I believe he was their best player. Even though he was streaky throughout the Finals run, he had an incredible playoff debut. He can score the ball whenever you want him to, and he's one of the best scorers on this list. At 16, I have Ice Trey himself, Trey Young. Even though Bradley Beal is all the way at 21, I don't think there's much of a difference between Trey, Booker, LaVine, and Beal. I think they're all on the same tier. But anyways, a lot of fans, including myself, held Trey back because he couldn't lead his team to many wins. After getting a few good pickups last offseason, a successful season depended on if the Hawks could make the playoffs or not. And man, did he overachieve. He led the Hawks past the Knicks in 5 games while everyone thought that it was going to be a close series. In the second round, the Hawks upset the 76ers, which were championship contenders. They even put up a fight against the Bucks in the conference finals, but they lost in 6 games. The Hawks were the biggest surprise of the playoffs, and Trey Young led the way. At number 15, I have Kyrie Irving. Unfortunately, he got injured in the second round against the Bucks, so we couldn't see much from him in the playoffs, but we do know how great he is. He is part of the 50-40-90 club as he put up 27, 5, and 6 on 51, 40, 92 shooting splits. He has no offensive weakness and is one of the best players down the stretch. At number 14, I have Paul George. From underperforming in the bubble and getting millions of nicknames because of it, he has now turned that around. It seemed like he couldn't catch a break, but then he had an amazing playoff run, except not many people want to talk about it. He averaged 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists a game in the playoffs and showed up when the Clippers needed him to. At number 13, I have Donovan Mitchell. Last season, he led the Utah Jazz to the best record in the league. He has gotten better every season of his career, and he always steps it up in the playoffs. He averaged 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists a game in the playoffs on 45, 44, 83 shooting splits. Although Paul George is a much better defender than him, I think Donovan Mitchell's impact and scoring puts him just above PG-13. At number 12, I have Jayson Tatum. He's a 3-level scorer that plays some really solid defense. That's why I have him above many other guys behind him. He's a much better defender than Kyrie and Mitchell, and there is a gap, but the gap isn't that big between Tatum and PG. He's a capable 3-level scorer and had a 50-point game in the playoffs against the Nets. He has led Boston to the conference finals twice in the last 4 years and is the cornerstone for the Celtics. At number 11, I have Damian Lillard. I definitely didn't want to put him outside the top 10, but the league is just so stacked that I just had to. Depending on how injuries play out, Dame could enter the top 10. He has the talent to be a top 5 or 10 player, but we just haven't seen enough of him. I'm not saying it's all his fault, but we haven't had deep playoff runs besides 2019. The Blazers haven't gotten out of the first round 4 out of the last 5 years. He consistently carries his team to the playoffs, which is a tough task to do, but he needs to be on a better team in order for us to see what he can do in consistent deep playoff runs. We are now entering the top 10. At number 10, I have Joel Embiid. Last year, he finished as an MVP candidate and made the all-defensive second team. He led the 76ers to the best record in the East while averaging 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists a game on 51, 38, 86 shooting splits. He is one of the most dominant players in the league, but he can also stretch the floor and brings great defense. His health always seems to get in the way, and I believe that if he didn't get injured, he would have won the MVP. At number 9, I have James Harden. James Harden last year was also an MVP candidate and held down the Nets when Kyrie or KD was injured. In the past, his ISO-heavy and ball-dominant play didn't translate in the postseason. Many people, including myself, thought that if he continued to play like that, he would never win a championship as the first option. And although he isn't the first option on the Nets, I think that has changed. He changed his play style and adopted a playmaking role on the Nets. He played point guard numerous times last season and has a real good chance of winning the championship next season and to show everyone what he's capable of. At number 8, I have Anthony Davis. His ranking all depends on his health. If he returns to how he played in 2020, I think he's up there in the conversation for the 5th spot on this list. When healthy, he's one of the league's best big men and is one of the best defenders in the NBA. Just 1 year ago, he was an arguable Finals MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. He averaged 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists a game during his championship run on 57, 38, 83 shooting splits. At 7, I have Nikola Jokic, last year's MVP. While missing Jamal Murray in the playoffs, he still managed to beat the Trailblazers in 6 games with Michael Porter Jr. as his second option. He averaged 33 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists a game during that series on 53, 43, 92 shooting splits. I have him higher than some other players on this list because of his health. He's the first MVP since Kobe Bryant in 2008 to play every single game that year, and considering how many players got injured last year, it just makes it that much more impressive. Jokic is there for his team and carried them in the last part of the regular season and in the playoffs. He's able to score 30 points a game while stretching the floor and is one of the best playmakers in the league. At number 6, I have Luka Doncic. The things Luka has done in his first 3 years in the league is incredible. Last year in the playoffs, he pushed the Clippers to 7 games while putting up 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists a game on 49% shooting from the field and 41% from 3. That's insane. He's already among the best players in the league, and there's no one in the league that can stop him. I think it's really close between him and Jokic, so to me, they're pretty interchangeable. At number 5, I have LeBron James. Last season in the playoffs, he was coming back from injury, and he clearly didn't play like himself. He was clearly dealing with injuries, but at the same time, he didn't give in that much effort. That part I didn't like. But I do believe that LeBron at full health is still one of the best players in the league. I hate doubting LeBron, because that's not a good thing to do, but I don't think he'll play as good as he did before the injury. He has been an Iron Man his whole career, and his reputation reflects that. He is so good that fans expect him to continue at the same level until proven otherwise. Next season, I think he will take a small step back, and I mean a small step back. I think he's still going to be one of the best players in the world and will continue to be a top 5 player in the NBA. At number 4, I have Kawhi Leonard. He hasn't really given the regular season his full effort, but he always steps it up in the playoffs. In the past playoffs, he averaged 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists a game on 57% from the field and 39% from 3 and 88% at the line. His defensive game also gets better in the playoffs, and it's close to his defense back in his San Antonio days. If he didn't get injured in the playoffs, I believe they would have gone to the finals and had a good shot at being the 2021 NBA champions. At number 3, I have Wardell Stephen Curry. Within the first few games of the season, many fans and players were doubting Stephen Curry. There were narratives that he couldn't carry a team, and he shut that all down. Last year, Steph Curry averaged 32 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists a game on incredible 48, 42, 92 shooting splits. The defenses were focused on Steph, so he was doing this on double teams and sometimes even triple teams. I don't think many NBA fans grasp just how impactful Steph Curry was. When he wasn't on the court, they had one of the worst offenses in NBA history. The only reason why he didn't make the playoffs is because of the play-in tournament. If LeBron didn't make this shot, the game would be tied with Golden State most likely getting the rebound with a minute left. If Draymond made this simple floater, the Warriors would be in the playoffs. Steph played great in the play-in tournament too. He had arguably his best season ever, and I feel is on the same level as the 2 players ahead of him, like KD. Kevin Durant is the best scorer in the NBA right now, and his series against the Bucks says it all. He averaged 35 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists a game in that series on 50, 35, 83 shooting splits. The Bucks were one of the best defensive teams, and KD still did that on defenders like Drew, PJ, and Giannis. He pushed the Bucks to 7 games, and if his foot was behind the 3-point line, he would most likely see a finals appearance and possibly a championship. And at number 1, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. He had an amazing season, and I couldn't have asked more from him. Kawhi was the best player in 2019, LeBron was the best player in 2020, and now it's Giannis' turn. He proved a lot of people wrong and crushed a lot of narratives around him. People were saying that he wasn't clutch, and he showed up down the stretch numerous times throughout the playoffs and always made the right play. People were saying he couldn't do it in the playoffs, so he went out and won a championship. Giannis had an insane playoff run and topped it off with a very meaningful championship. Instead of joining other superstars, he won in Milwaukee and was loyal to his franchise. He averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists a game in the finals on 62% shooting from the field while playing amazing defense. He capped it all off with a 50-point game. That's why I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the NBA. That's it. That is my ranking of the top 25 players in the NBA. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I read every single comment, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe for future basketball content, and thank you for watching.